Welcome to Scaping Runes, your new hub to make sure you enjoy every second of your time playing RuneScape and Brighter Shores. Come along with me while we explore everything from low-level skilling and money making to high-level bossing and PvMing. If you want to make sure that you can do anything you want in these games, I'm going to help you do it. Today, we'll be looking at 10 tips for new and returning players to RuneScape 3, and ways to maximize your time in the game. Alright, one of the first things I want to talk about is just how important that tutorial is. If you've already completed it, then you've done a little bit of woodcutting, you've done a little bit of mining, light combat, and a slight touch of cooking. Those are some really basic skills that you're going to be doing all of the time, so it is great to have that stuff, that knowledge. Now, once we're here into the game, this is where you'll be at Berthorpe. This is kind of the beginner area, and there's a couple of things we may want to look at before we jump into really playing the game. The first thing I'm going to show you is we can open our combat bar here and see some of our combat skills. We'll be going over how combat works a little bit later, but you want to put this somewhere on the screen that works for you. You can see here you can actually move anything on the screen around, and you can close out any boxes that you don't want. If the emotes tab isn't something that you're interested in, it makes you cry, you can get rid of that. All that kind of stuff. You can move these trackers if they're in your way, move the map around, all that kind of stuff. Now, interface is a big deal in this game. You'll see people spend a lot of time perfecting it. But if we go ahead and hit the escape key, what we can do is see is there's actually a couple loadouts we can use, and you can actually get pretty in-depth into how you manage this. If you have a friend or if you've seen someone online that shares their loadout, you can actually type their name in here and copy it, or you can save your loadouts. I have a couple different, I use one for my PC, one for my laptop, and one for other activities. So you can see you can save these, and then when we go to save it, we can actually name them as well. So I can choose this to be, my PC one, right? Now if I hit save on that, let's see. Now if I hit save on that, I can always come here, and I can just choose my PC loadout. So social, retro, default, PC, the one that I just made, and you can see this bar's already moved around. Now, once we've got our interface set up, we have our layout, how we might want it, there's a couple other settings that we might want to get into. I want to start here with the combat and action bars. We're going to talk some more about combat later, but what you're going to see here is a couple different options. Now, there are 3 combat modes here in RuneScape, and they each function very differently. Our full manual is a little bit more advanced, and that's something you may want to learn when you get into things like bossing, what we call PvMing, or some harder combat challenges, but it does mean that you activate every one of your attacks and skills manually. You should start on Revolution Combat, which will give you this yellow box here. The way this works is once you start into combat, you'll auto attack, but these abilities will also be activated in this order. We'll talk a little bit more about how to set that rotation up, but you probably want to leave it like that. Legacy combat means there's no abilities, you can use some special attacks from weapons, things like that, but it doesn't really have a whole lot of practical use, it's more for that nostalgia and things like that. Now, looking over here at the combat XP, this is something you may want to look at as well, because you can change how you earn XP in combat. Right now it is split evenly amongst everything, so when I go to attack something, I get attack XP, strength, and defense, right? And all 3 of these have different effects in combat. If for some reason I didn't want to level one of these skills up, or I wanted to level one of them up more than the others, you can actually uncheck these boxes. This is most commonly used to level up defense or strength if that's something that you are going for. But you can do it in all of these skill sets here, right? Now, one of the really big settings we want to look at is here in the camera. What we're going to be able to do here is change this from Modern to Freedom or Freedom Classic. It doesn't matter which one you go with though. Right now I'm currently, now I'm probably at about the max zoom that Modern would allow. Freedom allows you to go way further. Many people talk about this when bossing and PVMing, but I find it's just useful when trying to navigate the game, so I highly recommend changing that setting early on. Now that we've got everything set up, it's up to you to decide where you want to head out. You've already had some experience with the areas in the game, things like some light skilling, some questing is available here, but I want to point out some of the early and easy things that we can do to help us out. So you can come over here to the Rune Crafting Tuner, and as a quick note, you can right click on anything to get that extra set of options, and we can take these runes for free. This is going to let us get straight into some magic once we get a weapon, but it's always good, and those reset every day, so that's pretty handy. From there, where we can head out is we can head here to the kind of crafting area in Berthorpe. This is going to let us do crafting with clay and other tools, and let us do some smithing and mining. We're going to head into the mine to get a little bit of ore and stuff, that way we can get the first piece of things that we need. Just like our tutorial, we're going to go ahead and mine some copper. With that ore collected, we're going to go ahead and smith it so we can make one of the most useful items for making money and generally playing the game. What we're going to make is an ore box. These ore boxes are extremely useful as they hold lots of ore for you to use, meaning you can mine a lot faster. Now, these boxes exist for several different skills, but the main two that you're going to use are the ore boxes for mining and the wood boxes for wood cutting. And just like that, we can craft a wood box as well. So these store those resources and let us be able to hold a whole lot more of them all at once. Now, another thing we want to look at after we've created our boxes is we may want to head here to the bank. Now, by default, if you click on a stack of items, it is going to send you one at a time. You can actually change that down here at the bottom. So we can set it to all, 10, 5, you can even choose your custom number. It makes things a little bit easier. I like to work with all, but that's just me. Now, the other thing you can do that's quite helpful is you can select this option down here, which will note withdraw items. If something's withdrawn as a note, for instance this log, it won't be able to be used as a log for anything, but you can carry almost an infinite number of these things at one time. So if you're bringing something to a friend, or you're trying to bring something to the exchange, this will make it a whole lot easier to get around with that stuff in your inventory. And when you're here interacting with your bank, if you ever have an item that you maybe don't have a need for anymore, like say maybe I don't want this crawfish anymore, you don't have to take it out and drop it or anything. You can actually just move it here just outside your bank, and it'll give you the option to completely destroy that item. This is a little bit easier for cleanup. As your bank spaces start filling up, it's something you may want to think about doing more often. Okay. Now that we've explored a little bit around Berthorpe, you may be thinking, I want to go off, I want to do something. There's a couple of great locations that really stand out as somewhere to head next, and I do want to talk about those a little bit early. What we're going to be doing is heading just down here through Berthorpe, which is also right next to Taverley on the map, as you can see, Berthorpe and Taverley. And we want to keep heading here. Varric. Varric is truly going to act like a huge social hub, so that is definitely something that you want to look into. The social aspect of the game is huge, and that's where you can really find the fun. Now, here at Falador, we can go ahead and activate our lodestone. All you need to do is click on these to activate them, and once they're activated, you're actually going to be able to click this home teleport button, and now we can teleport to Berthorpe or Falador. That makes getting around a whole lot easier, so I do encourage taking some time to do this early on. Now here is Varric and the Grand Exchange. This is a huge social hub and a place where you can actually sell items to other players through the game. To chat with people, you just need to come here and ask people, what's up? or chat with them. Say whatever you want. Whenever you chat, your message will pop up above your head, and so will other people's. Another huge aspect of the game is clans. So let's come in here to our, let's see, social tab, and you can see there's grouping, there's other things, but clans are a great way of actually getting into a group with other people and learning all sorts of things and getting some help. So consider joining any clans you maybe hear about. It can't hurt you to chat with some other players and get some cool new ideas. Alright, we've explored a little bit, we've done some skilling, and I went ahead and upgraded some of my armor. You'll see I have a new weapon and a new piece of chest armor. Now, I wanted to get that stuff so we could talk about combat. There's a couple different phases and things to remember in combat, so I do want to go over all of that really quickly. First off, you do want to find an enemy. So I'm going to here in this cow pen. These cows are level 2, and I can see that from hovering over them, and I can see how much health they have and what they're weak to. These particular cows are weak to earth spells, so attacking them with earth damage would be a little bit better. I'm choosing not to do that right now, just for the sake of showing you how combat works. Now, you may notice there is another ability on my bar that wasn't there before. You can find these in your power section down here at the bottom, and there's a section for each different type of combat: necromancy, magic, ranged, melee, and defensive. If we go ahead and open the melee options here, you can see I have these 3 abilities. I went ahead and added slaughter. Now, with this one weapon here, I am able to go ahead and attack, so let's fight a cow. No matter what style you're using, you will auto attack the enemy, and revolution combat will cause you to use each of these abilities on your bar in order. Every time you attack, you'll generate adrenaline, which can be used for these threshold abilities, which do a little bit of extra damage but drain your adrenaline, and can be used for something called ultimate abilities, which do even more damage but require that you be at 100% adrenaline to use. You can see I'm not actually clicking any buttons to do anything. My character is just attacking completely on their own. Now, it is important to know that gear does need to match up for styles of combat. I have a melee weapon with melee gear on. If I were to go ahead and equip my ranged weapon and some ammo, I would still be doing decent damage, but I'll be doing less damage than if I equipped some ranged armor. So it's important to have a set of armor for each style you're planning to use in a combat. Once you've killed your target, you should get a nice little summary of their loot, and you can also come here and collect it all. Different enemies are going to drop different things, so it is important to know what you're looking at, but almost everything is useful in some kind of way. What I can do with this cowhide is I can actually take it here to Tanya Hide, and she'll turn it into leather that I can then use to create some of that ranged armor I was talking about. So now I have a leather top that I can use when I have my ranged attacks equipped. That's just the basics of combat, and there is so much more to look at. I'm going to link to a really nice video about this revolution combat and how to set things up, but you don't need to get that in depth right now. Just jump into the game and have fun. I do want to talk about one other aspect of combat, and that is safe spotting. This isn't something you can do everywhere, but I'm going to show a really basic example of it here. There are going to be enemies that you fight that are maybe stronger than you are, or maybe you don't have the right gear, or you just don't feel like putting up with the hassle of actually fighting them where they can attack you. It is possible, with the use of fences, rocks, whatever, to be able to attack an enemy like this. You can see I'm right here, but the cow can't actually attack me. That means I can just stand here and continue to kill the cow without ever being in danger. You'd be surprised at the number of enemies that this is possible to do on, so always be on the lookout if something's a little bit too tough for a spot that maybe you can snag them on. A rock, a fence, a tree, something. This can make combat encounters a piece of cake if you're willing to just sit there and take the time to kill them. And I want to show one more piece of advice when it comes to combat. Now, what I want to show you here is one of the powers listed under the defensive constitution abilities, and this is eat food. This is something I didn't know about for a little while, but you can actually put this ability on any of your bars and make it a lot easier to eat a piece of food. You won't have to find it in your inventory, it'll just get eaten. So let's go ahead and fight this goblin here. Alright. And this goblin's a little bit tougher, so there we go. But if I start running low on health, I can just click 9 and I immediately eat that food. Very handy trick and way to kind of cut down having to sort through and find things and all that kind of stuff. Finally, guys, don't forget to enjoy the game. We can get so caught up in trying to beat that boss or make more money that we forget that this is just for fun. If you want to see even more tips, even more help, make sure to like and subscribe and check out the channel. I'll be making stuff constantly to help you maximize your amount of enjoyment with this game. Now get out there and scape some runes.